So let's jump right in. Today we're going to talk about the contractor funnel. So what I did earlier was I took and put two ads out, one for a roofer and one for a painter. And right now, I think I just checked. That was the reason I was 3 minutes late. It's the only thing that made me late. I was actually sitting there just reading and kind of lost track of time. All the applications that came in. There's a bunch though. So there is I think 30. I'm going to show you exactly what there is. Let's see. 1 second. It's coming into my email. This is basically what we got today. So here's all the stuff for $10. This is all the responses I got. Pretty cool stuff. So a lot of these people didn't actually go through the ad. And what we put out is, let me start with just showing you what the ad looked like, and then we'll go through the responses. What I was going to try to do, but I can't do actually if I'm using my phone. So that's kind of a catch-22 because I don't have my phone. Damn you, Delante. I should fix this. No, well, we can do another call if I have to, so we can walk through this, have a little bit of talk, and I prefer, what I was going to do is I was actually going to call some of these people back and let you guys listen to me do it, because I feel like there's not just a matter of calling them back and talking to them, but it's about how you talk to them, how you get them in the door. You know, your job is, when you're talking to them, you're really trying to qualify them out and just make sure, see if there's any reason you think they're going to suck. And if there is, you don't want to spend any time meeting them at the house. What we do is more like, we don't meet contractors at houses. We do more like an open house, so if the best way to try to find a painter is to, really market the thing you need, the problem you have. And when I say really market it, it's $5 a day. So literally, if you run this thing for 5 days and $25, you will be inundated with people. Right. And I mean, you will have every available painter who's ever looked at Craigslist will be calling you. And, you have a really good chance with that kind of abundance of finding someone good, especially when you're letting them know what you pay. So, they're not going to come on, and, the pricing should be pretty set up. Now, on the one we did roofing, unfortunately, and, we can't, the roofing's not going to do us any favors because we didn't know how to price that particular roofing. But if we were doing shingles, we would know the pricing and we could just put the pricing on. But this is a flat roof, and I'm still trying to get my roofer to respond to me and tell me what the standardized price is for a flat roof. This is a really unique roof anyhow. But let's say that so we got two things. Painting was easy. We just wrote in the ad, and let's take a look at it, and I'll show you. And I'll show you why we did this, because there's a couple objectives of every ad. The first is to just say, call out what you want. I'm looking for a painter, right? That's pretty important. And let's see, Dante gave me some ads here. So let's start with the painter one. And I don't know, maybe we get Ray's brother on here. I love this picture that Delante stole. It says iStock on it. So I'm probably going to get a bunch of great painters, but be in some kind of legal trouble. I love that he didn't even bother to try to find one that didn't say iStock. Thanks, Delante. And it's a little Spanish guy, by the way, which actually I really like that. Delante's secretly a little racist because he finds it funny, but we both have the same sense of humor. But look, that's who we're trying to hire. So if you're trying to hire a Spanish guy, put a picture of a Spanish guy up. I know that sounds crazy, but Spanish guys tend to be more abundant. They definitely get more credit in my book because I've had a lot of great experience with Spanish guys. So I'm definitely putting a picture of a Spanish guy, because if a Spanish guy looks at it, right, is he going to start thinking, okay, these guys are looking for me? Imagine what some Spanish guys are thinking. Some are actually wondering, are they good enough? Some are like, hey, does an American want to work with me because I'm Spanish and I don't speak great English? Some actually worry about that. They're insecure about it. But when I put a picture up and I'm like, yo, that kind of looks like half the people work for me right there. So that's all good. And I think then to be fair, though, he did get these guys. But this one here, I don't know what he was thinking here. I ain't never seen that guy. That guy is on HGTV. That looks like Ray with a hat on, right? That guy's not painting anything. What is Ray when the painter doesn't show up? That's Ray working in a house. And there no more, he says. But you see, so, I mean, I probably wouldn't have put the white guy up there. I mean, maybe there's a white guy or two that paints. But, I mean, seriously, I've had, in my history of doing over 900 flips that we renovated. I mean, I hate going racial profiling, but, we got to think of this stuff. I can tell you that Spanish guys have a better track record. And if you're trying to weed your work down, I'm going to give more credit to someone who I've had good results with. So this would be no different than if you've hired younger people and you've had a better result with people in the age of 25 to 35, right? Versus people that are 50 or 60 or people that are 19. We're not going to hire a 16-year-old to do this, right? You can see in here, the pictures are fine. It's pretty proven that ads with pictures get open and read more often. So I would suggest putting a picture or two on. right? Just, you know, generally a picture of what you want done. I like putting a picture of the Spanish guy painting. I think if you could only had one, that would be the best one. Because in general, Spanish guys are the best. I can't even tell you. I don't think I've ever had hired a black person to paint for me ever. I mean, I'm sure I hired them, but I mean, they've never worked out. And white guys, not so much either. Just to be honest, I've had a couple, but for the most part, not really a thing. So I mean, you know, it really just comes down to like certain people are just going to be better at like production work than other people. And that could be different. It was interesting. I was talking to Michael Chow in Canada, and he actually said that Asians are kind of like the Spanish guys up there. So, you know, that's interesting because he's like, there's not a lot of Spanish guys up there. I guess they probably don't want it's too cold up there, probably. Like Baltimore's cold enough. So they probably don't go up there. But he said Asians, there's a lot of Asians, and they're kind of the immigrants. They come in at work. And so, yeah, it's different for every little area. I imagine Spanish guys, obviously in San Diego, are going to be crazy. We have a Spanish guy in the ad who's like a picture. We always put pics. As you see here, we got compensation 2,000 for 1,300 square foot house with finished basement. Again, this is ballpark. I think Nikki's house might be 14. I don't even know. It's like the details don't matter that much. But the key is like someone knows that we're being paid 2K, by the way, with the finished basement. And we basically said, do you have any painting skills looking to make some money? My name is Michael Green, Quick Cash Home Buyers. I'm looking for subcontractors who are able to paint a 1,300 square foot house with finished basement for 2K. I'm looking for 2 to 3 guys for a couple days work. Right. So I'm already telling them what I'm going to pay, how long I think it should take. Right. I got a Spanish guy, so that's going to connect with them. Like I'm essentially looking for the avatar of the person that has worked for me and been successful over the years, which is generally like 2, 3 guy painting crews are really strong. That's usually the guys. Like they're people who paint a lot and they're good. The fact that they can have like reliable people in consistently says a lot that they actually do a lot of painting. Right. And I'm saying painter, right? I'm not saying, hey, general contractors, anyone, because there's a lot of people who can do a lot of things. But the reality is, let me just meet you guys real quick. There's a lot of people who can do a lot of things, but the reality is it's really important to try to do very specific. The more specific you can be, the better off you are. Because the first thing is I'm telling them what I want. And the second thing is this is all qualifying out. Right. I want this ad to drive away every single person who's like, I want 5K to paint a house. If they've ever tried to charge a ton of money to paint a house, I want this ad to be like, dude, don't even try it. This is super specific. It's very detailed. It's just going to make people feel like if they want 4K, what do you think they're going to think when they see this ad? Oh, they're too cheap. I ain't going to, I'll waste my time with them. That's what I want them to think because I don't want to waste my time with them. So this is all about weeding out the people we don't like and attracting the people we do like. Now, people who actually do houses for around 2K and can paint a house in a couple days, every detail of this is actually going to attract them, right? They're like, yeah, it takes me a couple days, 2 to 3 guys, a couple guys for a couple days, right? $2,000. That all sounds right. So what we do there, and it says must have own transportation tool. We're easy to work with and family oriented. So if you're interested, visit the link and complete the application. We'll get back to you. There's the link. Delante actually transcribed it into Spanish. I'm pretty sure that says what it's supposed to say, but you guys can have the copy of that. I think he just put it in Google Translate. And, it says, "Tú has par de días something, Drive." So yeah, I think that says, yeah, I'm looking for some good people. Paint my house. I'm a translator now. So anyhow, this is the details, right? So you get in here, and when you got this is a very short to the point ad. We put $5 on it. We've gotten a decent amount of responses, probably 20 of the 30 response or for a painter. So we've got a lot of people, and that's that ad. So let's take a look at the roofing ad. And Nancy, can you see the screen now? Are you in where you can actually see? Let me unmute her real quick. And
yes.
Awesome. Okay,
Thank
cool.
you.
So all right, so you can see what we got going on. So let's go into Nancy's. This was for Nancy. And by the way, I'm going to do this for every trade. And I suggest if you have any shortage on contractors that you're doing it. So the secret to running any business successfully is that when you need people, right, a lot of people have what I call minnow contractors, right? Contractors that can get done. These are guys that drive you crazy, eat all your time, but they can get done. So like if you micromanage them, you spend all your hours with them, they'll get to the finish line for you. You're just going to have to put some work in. They're not going to do it easily. Those contractors will drive you nuts long term and won't allow you to have any freedom, won't learn you to really run a great business. When you get what I call shark contractors, sharks, they come in, man, they crush it. Sharks are the guy I was telling you about that's sitting in federal detention right now, and he's somehow got a tablet, and he's got his wife ordering all the materials, and the jobs are getting done just like he's never left. That's a shark, right? That's a guy that, like, not only is he self-sufficient, he's figuring things out. He's resourceful, right? This guy cares. We get so inundated with people who are just like complete bums that we start to, like, when people just show up one day, we start saying, well, at least they show up. Well, at least they're reliable. Like, we start making these stupid excuses for them that because we're just so used to people doing nothing, right? That we're impressed all of a sudden when people just come to the job. When you get a shark in there, someone who is going to be like, hey, Nancy, I need to get some materials. Look, I know you're busy. I'm going to run and get them. Can you just answer the phone and pay for them? That's what a shark does. A shark doesn't wait and say, well, you didn't get the materials. Oh, my car broke down. They literally they've run their life in a way where they do never have excuses. They never have problems. They literally just have solutions, right? I mean, I can tell you how many days of work do you think I missed in 10 years that, I mean, minus my grandmother died a couple days, but that was not like unexpected work. I probably missed under 3 or 4 days of work in 10 years when I worked. I mean, I only worked about 8 years, but I never missed a day. If I said I was going to do something, I did it. And if something got my way, I figured it out. I made it work, right? And that's what good shark contractors do. When you start having sharks in there, they're going to drive the boat. Like Ray got his Spanish guys, and they were like working late at night. They were getting stuff done. They weren't driving them crazy. They were just making it happen. And that's what happens when you find good people. Now, when you find bad people, they'll get the work done, but they'll drive you crazy. When you find the worst people, they won't even get the work done. So obviously, our job here is to put these ads out and quickly get past the worst people. Hopefully, get to what we call either minnows or sharks, right? Somebody can at least do the work. As a minimum outcome, we'd love someone to be able to do it on budget and do the quality, even if they're a little bit of a headache. That's like the next evolution, is having a good team of people who can actually do the work is the next evolution. And then the evolution after that is what I've been going through, and what a lot of like Ray's going through, is going from people who can do the work to people who can do it without breaking a sweat and enjoy it and are having a lot of fun doing the work, and make your life easy to work with them, right? You actually enjoy being around them and there's no tension. When you're with a shark, like, sharks don't, dude, they're just easy to get along with because they're just like, yeah, man, you got another job. They just knock stuff out. Ray's guy came framed the whole basement in a day by himself. That's a shark, right? I had my guys the other day. I went and looked at a house the other day that was close to Tanya's, and guys hadn't started painting yet. And I was, Steve, when are they starting painting? He's like, oh, this afternoon. So they started that afternoon. I came back 2 days later and they were complete. So 2.5 days, they painted a whole house, cut it in, trim everything with 3 guys. They had 3 guys one day, I think, and then two, but basically call it 3 guys. The 3 guys, 2.5 days, they did a whole house, Rosalie, which is about 1,500 square foot house, full finished basement, everything. So, anyhow, I'm muting you out, man. You're loud. So anyhow, yeah, they get a lot done. So I like the Spanish guy. For Michael, if it's the Asian guy, you might put him up there. If it's Asians, up where you're at, Mike. But we just want to put a guy that looks like the people we're trying to hire. And this guy could be Asian or Spanish, so he might be perfect, man. But don't steal the iStock photo, because telling you, I think you can get in trouble for that. I don't think that's legal. I want to talk to Delonte about it. I'm sure like Craigslist, like they're probably not combing Craigslist trying to see what I'm doing wrong. So this is our painter one, right? We got really specific, $2,000, 1,300 square feet. We're telling them exactly what we're going to pay. We're telling them exactly how long we think it should take. If they have been doing this, they will read this and say, yeah, that sounds exactly right. But if they're the guys that think it takes 6 days and like want to make 3,000, they're going to read this ad and laugh at it and cuss at it and not be, not really probably put the application in, because they just think this is stupid. And that's what we want. We want this ad to run people off. We want them to run all the wrong people off and suck all the right people in. So specificity is really important when it comes to this, and with the details and numbers, because I don't even care if these numbers are right, by the way. Like I said, I don't care. I just want a number in there that's going to be real close to what I'm thinking, so I can identify people who are going to be real close to what I'm thinking. Let me show you the other ad I did for, okay, there's that. There's the flat roofer ad. Now, the flat roofer ad, I couldn't do as much, but I love this. So that was a great picture. Delonte was thinking, yeah, I didn't even tell him to do this. He's getting smart, man. Like, that looks just like what they do, right? That's a flat roofer in action. So, by the way, and I'm going to tell you what, I wonder how relevant this is, but he put these white guys on here, and like mostly white guys responded to this ad. Now, when it comes to roofing, Spanish guys don't run the roofing trade. White guys do. White guys that like to drink and apparently drink too much and then probably fall off roofs. But I mean, maybe it's a white guy trade, but this is truly a lot of white guys in Maryland that love to do flat roofing. I used to know a couple, but so he put these pics up. I mean, I don't know about this guy. This guy looks a little too professional, but you get the drift, right? I mean, It is all white guys, funny enough. So we got a lot of white guys responding on the flat roofer. I mean, at least they seem to be. They had white names. So basically, it's like, do you have flat roofing skills? You're looking to make some money. My name's like Green. Quick question. I'm looking for subcontractors able to install flat roof on a 2,000 square foot house. So I got as specific as I could. Honestly, I didn't know like any cost or anything. We're willing to buy materials because I wanted to. The reason I put we're willing to buy materials is I wanted to really attract people who don't really buy their own materials. People just show up and do the work, right? Because I don't want them, like the people who are like, oh, I'll buy all the materials and do all that. Well, that's going to be like a real company, and a real company is going to have overhead. They're going to have marketing and expenses, secretaries, all these different things. We're really just looking for a dude with a truck and a torch and who knows how to come in and knock this out, right? And knows flat roofing. Maybe he works for a big company and does this on the side. I've had many good flat roofers. That's the case. My roofer today, by the way, the one that Nancy was actually going to refer, one of the reasons I can't refer him, he actually works full-time for a company and he just works on the side. So we're pretty much always waiting on him, right? We're kind of like all the time, like kind of like the roofer is our problem. So as she finds this roofer, I'm actually going to steal some of these if she does, and so my roofer can't do stuff. I'm gonna get a plan B roofer out of this for sure, that I can come in when my guy's busy, because my guy is often busy, by the way. So willing to buy materials. I think willing to buy materials is good to add in anything like roofing and all that, because I think that starts to really speak to someone who is going to be more of a sub than a GC or like a regular contractor. You just have to show up and be ready to work. Right? It says we're experienced investors, have multiple renovations in progress, provide steady jobs and quick pay. You can work as a subcontractor pricing if you can work for it. Must have own transportation tool. We're easy to work with, family oriented. So if you're interested, do that. Basically does it in Spanish. We always do everything in Google Translate, make it Spanish. Well, that might be Delante there. Funny enough, coming weird time. So we do it all in Spanish. So there's the ads, right? So the ads are super simple. Like you take that template and you basically can just use that template for HVAC, anything. What I would say with a lot of things though, is you could actually put more standardized pricing in the ads, but I don't care. Just don't do anything but that. We actually took a lot of time to tweak the exact language, and we're getting a good response from it. I think when we write ads, a lot of times, like Mike, when I see you write ads, you're writing the ad based off of you. You're thinking from your head, like, well, I don't want someone to do this. I don't want someone to do that. When you think copywriting, you have to take out of your own shoes and you got to get in their shoes, because an ad's supposed to do one thing. It's supposed to attract the exact right person we want to talk to. That's it, right? We can't be in there like, well, if you're on crack or you're not going to show up, like need not apply. That's our own bullshit, right? The shark is not going to have any issues with that stuff. So the shark's going to be like, man, I don't want to work with a guy. It's like, you're going to sound like you're crazy if you say, because the shark doesn't understand people not showing up. The shark just comes to work and gets stuff done. So if you start putting a lot of stuff in your ad, trying to like say, hey, if you're not reliable and all that, that just sounds like you're going to be hard to work with. You notice none of that was in my ad because I don't have those problems. So everyone, when you're writing your ad, I would say copy mine and just don't add any kind of weird shit in there, because like a lot of times, whatever emotionally is troubling us, we'd like to add to the ad. Right. And then our ad comes off like, like we're distraught, right? Like we're upset or frustrated. And the thing is, like, really high level players don't understand that and don't want to work for people who are frustrated. They want to work with people who are just like, oh man, that'll be a cool guy to work for, man. He'll pay when he's supposed to. That's it. That's what this ad sounds like, right? Like it was, hey man, come on, we're gonna have a party on the roof. And doing a roof right here in Pasadena, there's going to be a little cookout. And honestly, if they work for Nancy, it probably will be, man. She'll be awesome to work for. She's so nice. And, she might even have like a hot dog cookout or something for them. And she'll be a very nice person to work for. So they'd be very fortunate to work for Nancy and Jim, because they're nice people, and they'll treat them with a lot of respect and everything. So they, from everything I've seen with them. So that's all we're trying to convey, that, right? That like, we're really cool to work with and we'll pay you. Now you got to do what you got to do, obviously, but if they're not doing their job, but A players will, by the way, really awesome people will do what they have to do. We don't need to put that in the ad. We don't need to tell them they need to be good. The only people you would be speaking to when you're like, you got to do good work and you must be reliable, you're speaking to all the freaking minnows, the people who are never going to show up, the people who are just headaches no matter what you say to them. That actually speaks to them. They're probably sitting there saying like, all right, I'm gonna have to do good this time. I think I can make it work. But the A players are just like, what? Like doing good. Like I remember somebody saying to me, some girl one time I was talking to, she's like, oh yeah, my baby's daddy is a great dad. He pays child support. And I'm thinking like, okay, got it. What does that mean? Like, like that doesn't make him a great dad because he actually pays, like, isn't that what every dad does? Like pay child support and see their kid? Like what makes them great? Like this is just how some people think, right? So when we're talking about this kind of stuff, right, we want know that a great contractor will do things you would never understand. They'll just be there all the time. They'll just break every limiting belief you've ever had. And they're going to be amazing to work with, and your life gets a lot better. So Delonte was actually pretty slick. He actually used the white roofer, which actually is, most of the roofers are white, by the way. Funny enough, that he did that. And let's take a look at some of the responses next. So we put this out this morning at around 8:30. So remember, he put it out right around 8:30. Actually, yep, we can see we got our first. We also must put it around like 8 o'clock because I remember we got a response like within like 20 minutes or something. So I probably put it out around 8 o'clock. There's our first response we got. Now these are responses I got, like Derek Sproul. Well, he gave me a response, but he didn't fill my application out. Here's Cassandra Cooper. She looks like a good painter. Just don't let her pick the colors, obviously, but the work looks really amazing. We just can't let her pick any colors. But she even went on to talk about, we don't normally do tape. Just I wanted you to know that. So it seems like she's a very good painter. She understood that that meant like taping is like an amateur hour play. She knew that. That was kind of smart. So you can tell she knows her stuff. If that's a woman, I think Cassandra would be a woman, but who knows? So she definitely looked like she knew her stuff. The paint job looks amazing, right? I mean, some close-ups on that. That's a nice cut in line. That's good work, right? Again, colors, but they said it's like $1 million house, so they were just apparently they didn't hire a designer, unfortunately. This same guy, right? All these people, look what they did. They're just putting them in. They look pretty solid, though, but I'm not going to fall into the trap of responding to them. I'm going to actually go right up here and go into the Google Forms, and I'm going to look at everyone who actually took time to put the form in, because those people are going to get right off the bat. That's going to be my first way of weeding. Now, if I go through all these and I don't get anyone I like, I'm going to go back to maybe to some of the people who didn't put the form in. I'm only using the form as a way to determine who I think is going to be best based on the fact that they did what they were told to do. We told them to put the reform in, so if they didn't do it, that's the first thing they didn't do. So now let's look at the first form. We're going to walk through these, and then we're going to start doing is I'm going to start just picking the people I like best, the people I think are going to have the most likelihood. And honestly, I'll send this to Nikki, and I'll also send this to Jim and Nancy. But what I would tell you is like when I'm going through this, take some notes of the people that I tell you should call first. Because as we're going through this, we have right now around 30 some people who've applied, 29 here. And then we have all those extra like 8 or 9 people that didn't do through there. So we got 29 plus all those people. So that's a lot of people to call. So what we got to do now is we got to determine who we think is going to be the best fit for us. So right off the name, when we go to a name, how do we determine just based on someone's name? Any ideas? This is a painter. He does painting. He said just me. He's one guy. He's not working on any projects, and he also has never worked with an investor. So when I look at him, I'll tell you why I think he's okay. So I give him a little credit for being Jorge because that means he's Spanish. So generally, I've had multiple Jorges work for me in the past, so that makes me feel like there's a potential there. Because I mean, seriously, I've had at least 3 different Jorges work for me over the years, right? So it kind of makes sense. And he's Spanish. What I don't like about him is it's just me. He's not working on any jobs, and he doesn't have any experience with investors. Doesn't mean if I get desperate and don't like the first people I call, I won't call him, but I'm going to put him down a tier right for right now. So let's just go through these, and we're going to prioritize. So right now, I'm going to cherry pick through and look for the ones that look the best. And I'm going to show you how I do it quickly. So the key to this is I don't want to spend more than like 10 minutes. I don't even know Devon Pender. Painting, 1 or 2 guys, no. And yes, I've done subcontract work. So I don't know who Devon Pender is. Yeah, I don't know. So I like that he's done subcontract work. I like 1 or 2 guys. He's not Spanish, but you never know, right? It's worth talking to him. I do, like he says, I'd probably get on the phone and ask more questions. But right now, I wouldn't say, I'm looking for like the top 2 or 3 people that I'm like, they're going to be the first people I call. And so let's keep going through and we'll figure that out. So Sean Baker. Okay, got it. Let me just tell you that Sean, I've had 4 flat roofers named Sean who've worked for me over the years. Now, just white guys in general, apparently. That's just a white name, apparently. But he does flat roofing, 240. He's got 3 to 5 guys. So he's got just finished a full replacement. No, he hasn't worked for an investor. So I'm not seeing like all things looking good yet, but Sean's on the list, right? I would recommend for Nancy and Jim to put Sean on the list. Make sure you call him. But first thing I want you to do when you create your list is I want you to prioritize your list. This is the secret sauce right here, right? If you just go through and call everyone, right, you're going to end up doing a lot of work. But if you take the list and take maybe 30 minutes and go through it like we're doing now, and you prioritize the most likely people based on racial profiling, based on names, guys, how many have they worked for investors? Are they busy? Whatever the heck you want to use, right? That's up to you. But you got to make some critical thinking decisions and decide like who in the heck is going to be the most likely person for me to do business with. And I know that it's like, oh, well, we should never judge people. You never judge a book by its cover. Well, I mean, we got to make a decision somehow, right? We can't go through all 30s and not go out of business because it'll just eat all of our time and energy. So we got to make a decision somehow. So this guy's name, Raymond Forbes is his name. He's a flat roofer. It's just me. Like, I know Nancy's house is huge, so he's currently working on a project and it's just him. He's going pretty low because I can tell just me. I don't want just me on that big of a house, Nancy and Jim, right? That's a big house. You need someone who's not just like a random flat roofer who can work by himself. I mean, you might talk to him, but again, I'm not telling you not to. Again, we're looking for the people who look best. Like Sean looked really good. He would be one of the first people I call right off the bat. Raymond might get called. It just depends on, after I call 3 or 4 people, whether I need to keep calling. So here's Cassandra, by the way. Remember Cassandra who did the painting? She actually did put a form in, which is pretty cool. So that's awesome. She's got 3 to 5 guys. No, I'm free right now. Yes, I can take on whole house, but which is what I prefer, but I love painting. So she does whole houses and would like to paint, and she's seen our pricing. So she's free right now. Like, let's, give her a call in like 10 minutes and be like, look, paint job's ready. When can you be here? So, I mean, we're not ready for paint on Nikki's house yet, but Nikki, this could be a really good contact for you to call to Cassandra because she could be pretty solid. I mean, she would definitely be I would be one of the first people I call for sure. She might be awful, but again, remember, we need to get about 5 or 6 people to call that out of this 30 because we don't want to call 30. What we're doing is we're strategically going to call the top 5 or 6. And then what we'll do from the top 5 or 6, if we don't feel real comfortable and feel like, okay, I got like some definites here that are going to probably definitely work out, then we just call more people and we just keep going down the list in the order of importance. So right now, Cassandra for you, Nikki, would definitely be a first person to call. Okay, so we got Julio. Love Julio, right? Why? As you know why? Because I'm a fan. I mean, I right now, like literally 85-90% of people work from, well, on the piece of painting, every person that works for me is Spanish. I don't have any white painters or any other painters. So here he is. He's 3 to 5 guys. He's painter. His name's Julio. Like, he don't even need to put his last name. It's just Julio. It's like, like J-Lo. You know what I mean? He's like a star, dude. He's got it all going on. He's currently working on a project, so someone likes him enough to do that. And then, as he worked for investors, he's like, yeah, man, here's my number. Of course I have, but I don't know if that's good or not. But so he looks like he actually understands the investment side. He does demolition, drywall, painting. He's got experience with all that. So you can just give him a text or a call, and then he's also got an email. So he's totally set up. That's highly professional. So he would definitely be on the list, Nikki, because he might be a guy that you can get in and maybe you can help with some of the other stuff like the doors, trim, any of the other stuff. But it seems like he likes painting and drywall, by the way. So he seems like someone who, you notice how he has a lot of things, but it's mostly painting and drywall, right? And then it's demolition, but anyone can do demolition. It's actually the name of his company is Julio Drywall and Painting. Like that's a good guy, right? That's specialty. That's not construction. I can do everything. He does drywall and painting. Those 2 things go together. So he can do both. I'm assuming if the pricing is right, if you like his pricing, he would probably be a decent drywall and painter would be my guess. And I'm just making all these assumptions based on very minimal amount of information. But this for me, Nikki, would be Cassandra and him are going to be some of the first people I call. So I put this guy on your list also. So, and you got Sean for you to call. So I'm going to send this to both of you. Now, William Wendell, he's a painter, 1 to 2 guys. Wrapping up a job. Yes, I do work for John Molly at First Mortgage Flipping Houses. I don't really know what that means, honestly, because like it sounds like he's at first mortgage flipping houses. I'm not sure what that means, but it sounds anytime they're like, I work for a realtor, you would tend to think that that's a person who understands cheap pricing. But do you think guys think realtors pay like super cheap pricing like we do, or do you think realtors probably are a little more like probably a little more like, not full retail, but maybe like low end of the retail? They are. Realtors generally are on the low end of the retail. So realtors are tricky because they say I work for a realtor. That's not a house flipper. Realtors so often flip houses and suck at it and pay too much for the stuff. Like, right, I know because they come to my contractor seminars and they're like hating life usually. So he could be a decent guy, but he's a painter. You might want to call him, but let's look through here. I'm not willing to put him on the must call list yet, because remember, I'm looking for the top five. He'll be the guy I call him, people like him and the others, if the first five or six don't make me feel extremely comfortable. So here's Eddie Majors. He's a painter. He's got 3 to 5 guys. He's just completed something. And that's it. I think he said more. Maybe put another ad in. Anyhow, I don't know. He seems like someone just completed. I don't know enough about him. He could make the list. You could throw him on if you like. Remember, we need about 5 or 6 people. We'll know. Javier Martinez. All right. That name sounds so familiar that I'm almost wondering if this is someone who used to work for me. Because I used to have a Javier Martinez working for me, but I think he died. So I'm not even sure if that's the same guy, but whatever. Could have fake died, just didn't want to work for me anymore. So, because that's, like how their truck breaks down every day. 3 to 5 guys. I like that. It says, yes, I previously worked for investors. Yes, I'm currently working for investors. So for me, this is one of the best things you can see, right? I get really excited when they're like, yes, I'm currently working for an investor, but I'm on Craigslist looking for work. Why do you think that is? Because that investor is not keeping me busy enough. That investor has disrespected me. Half of my guys or more have come from my competitors who completely trained them up and then talk some shit to them and treat them like shit. And next thing you know, they're on Craigslist looking for someone else. And I hopped on and got them and stole them and then kept them forever and never gave them back. So you can do that. So this is going to get real high up on the totem pole because he said he actually worked for investors. Like, I am currently working for him, not I worked for a realtor one time. Anyone can work for a realtor one time. Anyone could be like, yeah, I did like a little bit for an investor here and there. Investor here and there don't mean anything. So this guy's going high on the list. He's also Javier Martinez. So he's Spanish. He's heard the numbers. He's a lot of good stuff on this one. So Nikki, I would suggest that you put him on your top 5 for sure. And I would actually bump that other guy off and just go back to the Cassandra, him, and then the other dude we liked, Julio. And then Alexandra Scott. He's a painter. He's got 5+ guys. Yes, he's currently working. It says, we've worked with the Baltimore MD investors. So it sounds like that's really good, by the way. He's getting on the list because Baltimore MD investors, I don't even know who that is, but it sounds like he's worked for a lot of people. So I'm in for that. Okay. So call him, put him on your list. I mean, do these people seem pretty hot when you're looking at them? I mean, do you have like a decent feeling about like your potential that if you talk to enough of these people, you should have almost no chance that somebody's going to actually be able to do this? Pernell Sykes. He's a flat roofer, 3 to 5 guys, just a couple of small jobs. Yes, it's been a while since I worked for investors, but I get some work from real estate companies from time to time. And that means I don't actually work for investors. That's what that's code for. So when I get work for real estate investors time to time, it's really code for like, I ain't never been able to make that work. So, I mean, I'm not saying this guy couldn't work, but this guy will be on my second tier of people I call. And honestly, I don't know how many roofers we're going to have right away. So maybe he's on the first tier because we got to see how many roof people. Joseph Hubbard. Now, Joseph Hubbard, okay, that's close enough. Is it a B? You got to take a B off. This guy could be related to Nikki potentially, like in some weird way, like close enough. So he ain't never worked for an investor. He never done nothing. And he's a white guy. I mean, he would be on the second tier for painting. You got couple of the people you got, I feel like I think I'd be really excited to talk to. So this guy's name's Wilmer. I also got a lot of Wilmers working for me. He's a painter. He's got 3 to 5 guys. He answered none of this because he's like, F you, I don't even know what you're talking about. He might make the list, but let's see who we got. He might be second tier just because he didn't answer everything. But any Spanish guy instantly gets put up high on the totem pole. That makes sense? Because Spanish guys just tend to work out more often. If I only interviewed Spanish guys, I probably could save a tremendous amount of time. I know I could. This guy's name's James Sherry. He's a painter, got 1 to 2 guys. No. So, I mean, he sounds retail to me, or he sounds like he doesn't understand the whole investment thing. I'm not saying I won't call him, but I'm not going to call him first. I'm going to put him on the second tier that I call when the first deal doesn't work out. I might go through all these tiers, by the way. I might have to talk, because the thing is, whatever I got today, I'm putting $5 more and I'm going to get the same good people tomorrow. So if you really think about it, I might never need to talk to a white guy. I might just talk to Spanish guys for the next week, just knowing that like white guys just don't work out that often for me, because I'm apparently racist to my own race. That's what I'm finding out. Like I kind of am when it comes to construction, because they're freaking lazy and they don't like to work. So we just got David here. He's a painter, 1 to 2 guys. Yes, painting outside. And he says, yes, I've worked with an investor. I don't know. He could be good, could be bad. He'd probably just be second tier. I'm going to call him, let's see. Raphael. That's decent. He's a painter, 1 to 2 guys. No. He's worked for an investor, but he's not working on any projects. So I'm actually going to put him up high on the list because he's Spanish. He has working with investors. So he's going to be one of your 5, Nikki, to call. Then we got David here, flat roofer, David, 3 to 5 guys. No, and it says, yes, I work very well together. We understand everyone has a job to do and get done correctly. I mean, I don't know. That was nice of him to write that. So I would put him on your list for your flat roofers, Nancy. You kind of like David, seems like, solid, like everything. So put David on your list, Nancy, and he'll make the cut. And let's see where we are. We got Ronald Hudson, painter, 1 to 2 guys. No. So we're going to pass on him, put him to the second tier. We'll be done this in a couple minutes. Stanley, he's a painter, 1 to 2 guys. He says, I'm currently working. He's never worked with an investor, so I'm putting him on second tier. Let's see who we got here. Who's making all that noise? Mr. Chow. I got Adam Necessary. He's a painter, just me, but he's like, no, I'm not currently working on any projects. No. So, okay. It's just him. I don't really want just him, right, Nikki? We want like 2, 3 guys in there knocking that paint out for you. Wouldn't it be nice to kind of see like you come in your house and like 3, 4 guys are just like working super hard and stuff's getting done like instantly? It would be a good feeling, wouldn't it? That's what you want when you hire. Just me, like that's kind of you hire to do like little odds and ends and stuff. Like, painting requires production. You can't do a ton of production when it's just one dude running around your house with a paintbrush. So I'm probably just going to go ahead and put him on. I'm not saying you wouldn't hire him. I'm only saying he's second tier, right? Right now we got to we're going for the cream of the crop, right? Now I think we just put him back in here. Oh no, it's the same guy. Maybe we just the form didn't move. Eddie Majors, okay, painter, 1 to 2 guys. Yes, acted as a contractor punch man for investors. So yeah, he might make it. I mean, he looks pretty solid, Eddie Majors. So you could put him on the list. Jorge, painter, 1 to 2 guys. Yes and yes. Put Jorge on your list. Jorge's going to get, so he's going to be solid. And then we got Edic. He's a flat roofer, 3 guys. He didn't answer anything else. I'm going to say, Nancy, put him on your roof. Nancy, you're going to put most of the people on your roof because you didn't get as many flat roofers. Because even though we weren't specific about price, we were very specific about flat roof versus shingles. So it's interesting. We got David Griever. He's a flat roofer. So maybe some of our flat roofer guys are coming in. And it says no jobs currently. And yeah, he's worked for some investors. Yeah. And I got 3 to 5 guys. And I'm ready to roll because I'm hungry. So David's going to make the list, by the way. David, you want to call him. And let's see. And then we got Dustin Constant. He's a painter. It's just me. Says, I've worked for investors before, not just painting, but also remodeling their properties. So let me tell you what I would say. If I just had to make a quick guess what Dustin might be good for. Dustin could just be that odds and end guy that could do a lot of little things around the house for you. You might want to call Dustin and just see like if he does trim, doors, and stuff like that. And he could be helping TJ out to kind of expedite that trim and doors. Because if you really want to get your house done quickly, Nikki, it's not going to be like TJ and one Spanish guy. Like you actually have the room to get like 3 guys in and be like, hey, I'm gonna let you do half the doors, let you do the trim, let you do the cabinets, right? You can get in multiple people, and then just if they're all good, you keep them working because you have enough to do in your house that you can keep a handful of guys working like for a while, for a couple of weeks, if that makes sense. And then you can start getting through and getting this thing on the market as quickly as possible. So you might want to talk to him about that potentially. Like, he might just be someone, see what he wants to make per day, stuff like that. And then we'll come in and let's see, we're a couple away from the end, 28. So now we got Kenny Andrews, flat roofer, No, yeah, he's got a job. No, he's not worked with an investor. So, I mean, not loving that part. But I don't know if we got enough people for you, Nancy. So maybe Clifford White. He's a painter, one of two guys. No and no, he's not going to make the cut. There's our 29. So I would say that for you, Nancy, everyone that I told you to talk to, you might talk to, when you only get 5 or 6, then you call everyone. When you get like, I think Nikki got about 25 because painters are easier to find than specialized trades. We actually just got a good preview of the actual ratios between unskilled, I mean, semi-skilled jobs versus highly skilled jobs. So in something like roofing, HVAC, electric, you're not going to get 20 people to respond in a day. You might get 5. But, of this, what we're going to do for Nancy is we're actually going to keep running this roofing thing for a couple more days. And what I suggest you do when you're running your ad is you keep running it until you've conclusively hired 2 or 3 people that could do the work. Does that make sense? So what you usually do is we talk to people and then we find someone we think might work and we take our foot off the gas of interviewing because we're like, oh, I think I got a guy, so I'm going to stop calling people back. The better way to do it is to get one person that you think you have and then find 2 to 3 people you think you have. So I don't ever just hire one person. I get 3 people qualified to hire that I say I could hire any of these 3. And then I start taking and I'm deciding based on my interview, did they show up on time? Did I like the way they talk? Did they seem confident? Did they seem like did they have the manpower? Were they Spanish? Any of these things, I start considering all this and I decide of the 3 people, who would actually be the best to do the job. Now, when you decide with one person, you take them because that's who's available. But if you can get 3 people qualified to do this job, then you can pick the 3. Well, now guess what you have? If you pick the one you want to use and they suck, you go right to person 2. And if person 2 sucks, you go right to person 3. And it's a really good way to do it because what sucks is when you get someone in and they don't do their work and then you got to go back to the drawing board. So when you're doing this process and you're in the momentum of talking to people, I don't want you to get one person. So Nikki, I don't want you to have one painter you can hire. I want you to leave this process because I'm going to do this for you also for a couple more days. And what I want to do every day is you cherry pick out the people who seem best and I'm going to keep sending them to you. And when you get these people, I want you to have 2 to 3 people that you feel confident can do this work at the right price, got the manpower, can show up, they're available, and they understand investor pricing. And when you get to those 3 people, then I want you to take and think about the 3 and decide who you want to hire. Now you got time before you're going to be ready to paint anyhow. So like you're not really ready for that. So as you're interviewing them for painting and they do other stuff, like that one guy, you might have him come in and do some other stuff to get it ready for paint, maybe. Because that often does happen. When we meet one person who paints, they sometimes do other things. But I have to tell you, if I was most excited about the people who said they were actually painters, because they actually paint. But we'll see. They see the price. And when we call, what I'm going to show you in the bonus training, I'm going to do probably tomorrow, the next day, one of these days, not tomorrow, I'll probably have to do it Thursday. What I'm going to show you in the bonus training that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start calling these people and you're going to watch me call them, talk with them, see how I kind of qualify them. But to give you a role play of what I would do, that the qualification would be essentially like calling and saying, hey, Cassandra, I've seen you respond to our ad. Tell me a little bit about what you do. How often do you work with investors? Right? A little bit about your business. And well, you've seen that we're paying around $2,000 for labor. We buy materials. Does that sound about a fair price based on, just doing a normal house? And if they're like, yes, then great. If they're like, well, I don't know, I got to see it. Well, let me ask you, do you have a standardized way of measuring? How do you estimate when you come in? Do you just kind of go by feel or do you actually have like a formula for how you do it? And if the answer is like, I don't know, then it means they don't have a formula. They're just going, by gut feeling, which sucks. But we don't want that. We want to teach them the formula. So I then tell them, well, listen, Nikki, I pay, or Cassandra, I pay like $1 a square foot roughly. So like generally when we come to this house, we're going to need this to be all cut in. We put gray on the wall, white on the ceilings, do gray doors, whatever it is. Does that sound like, is that good? We got to paint the exterior doors, both sides, and get everything completely finished for the 2K. Does that sound about right? And normally what I do is I'll pay around like, basically about 16 to 1700 for the first paint. And then I leave a few $100 in for you to touch up towards the end of the job. So it'd be about 1700 and I'll leave 300 for touch up. And how long do you think something like that would take you? And we're like, well, it'll take me like 3 days. How many guys? Like 3 people? Okay, great. Now that makes sense to me. 5 days? That doesn't make sense to me. I got to ask more questions. Right. So you see, this conversation could be 2 or 3 minutes, or it could be 5 or 7 minutes. It really depends on how deep I have to dive. But if I'm not hearing what I want to hear, then I want to clarify everything. So the secret to this is like, if they start to say things that don't add up to me, then I got to dive in and get clear, right? I can't just be like, okay, come meet me at the house, right? And honestly, I don't invite anyone to meet me when I talk to them on the phone, because it's real easy to say, well, why don't you just meet me because you feel all good about them on the phone? But what it would be better to do is actually call everyone and talk to them and get a hold of many people and then compare. And then only invite the people who seem like to be the top 5 or 6 and have them all come in an afternoon, right? Like an open house. Right? It's easy for an agent, just like an open house. So I generally schedule them a half hour each. So it might be like 12, 12:30, 1, 1:30, 2, get them all coming after each other, spend a few hours there. I have been known to bring like a camping chair with me so I can work on my computer if they don't show up, because some people won't show up, which is actually the first part of the interview, just so you know. So the first thing I'm looking at when they come is I'm deciding, like, did they show up when they said? That's the first part of the interview. They're supposed to be there at 12 and they show up at 12:45. I generally am like, cool, I'll see you later. I don't really talk to people that show up at 12:45. Because if they show up 20, unless they've called me and said, hey, I got this and it's happening, and that's different. But if they just come rolling in at 12:45, like, F you, no apologies, like, you want to work with that guy? Is that guy a shark? No, Shark's going to at least be on the phone saying, hey, I hit traffic, this happened, I apologize, I'm never late, I'll be there and I promise. And, they're going to be at least apologetic and concerned that they're being rude to you by not being on time. I've had many people show up 20, even like if they show up 15 minutes late and they don't say anything, I just don't work with them. Like, I expect, and I don't know if you guys expect this, but if someone's 15 minutes late, I expect an apology and an excuse. That's all I expect. I think that's fair, right? To say like, hey man, I'm sorry, I'm 15 minutes late. Dude, sorry about that. This happened, and normally I'm very on time. Because a shark would care, and a shark would be embarrassed to be 15 minutes late. If I showed up 15 minutes late to something, unless I don't have a phone for who knows why that would be, you're getting multiple phone calls apologizing before I even get there, because I would be embarrassed to walk into your house 15 minutes late after I told you to be there. So that's just how a shark works. So we're trying to figure out who the right people are. And someone who's going to be a great team player and make your life easy is not someone who show up 15 minutes late and act like it's nothing. So I'm looking for that. I know we're going on a little bit about that, but it's a deep dive. It's a very important piece. And when you're a nice person, you're often like, oh, it's not a big deal. It's just 15 minutes late. No big deal. But no, it is actually a huge deal, and especially if they're not apologizing, or at least saying, "Hey, I'm sorry." And they're not very empathetic. If like, you're sitting there waiting on them, and if they're like 30, 40 minutes late, I'm like, "Hey, I already got someone else here, man. I'm sorry, but I expected you like over 45 minutes ago. I didn't get any call or anything." And I can tell you, anyone I've ever had who's like 45 minutes late, and I decided to hire them, they pretty much never worked out. Like, my sharks are there sitting in their car 30 minutes early. That's the sharks. The sharks, like, if I tell a shark to meet me at a house at 8, I usually get there a half hour early because I'm a shark, and guess who else is there? The other sharks, right? And half the time we end up going in at 7:30 instead of 8 because we're all there early. That's like all the sharks swimming together, right? That's when you're going it right, because that's just what they do, right? They come early. You know why they come a half hour early? Because they hit traffic. Because that's what sharks do. They don't create excuses. They create solutions. They come a half hour early in case there's some traffic. They'll be on time. If not, they'll be there a half hour early. So what? But they'll never be late. That's how you need people that roll that way. That's what I do in life. So it's nice to find other people who think that way. And how nice is your life going to be when you're working with a contractor who actually, like, is much like you, right? Likes to show up, likes to be on time, keep their promise. So if you're a shark, then are going to have to hire people like that. So anyhow, these are pretty good. I'm not going to get into the people who just typed in, because I think it's a waste of time. I think Nikki has plenty of people to call. She definitely got about 5 to 6, 7 people she can call and have a conversation with on the phone. I might, and Nancy, you got about 4 or 5 people to call. So what I'm going to have you guys do between now and Thursday is I'm going to have you call the people, since you need these people. Nikki, you don't need them right away, but you might find some people who do other things who could help you get the paint, but you want to start interviewing now. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let you call those people. Nikki, I'll send you that link so you both can get into it, and I'm also gonna have Jim and Nancy call their people and try to maybe set up a day where you can meet them. Once you're comfortable and you've gotten some really good people and you've gotten through all your phone calls, then set your day. So I wouldn't try to do it tomorrow, maybe Thursday or something, after you've had some time to talk to everyone and feel a little good about it, and then then you just go there and start doing these phone calls. Should be very quick and to the point. So like most phone calls take no more than say 3 to 5 minutes, sometimes 10 if you really love them, but that's it, right? We're not trying to get on there and make it personal. So one thing, if you find your phone calls getting 10, 20, 30 minutes, you're making it too personal, right? We're not making phone calls where we want them to know everything about us because we want them to like us. If I used to do that, I'd sit and talk 30 minutes with them. And what I realized, if I talk 30 minutes with someone, I probably like them now more than I should. So now I'm not going to objectively handle them. Right. So I need to, when we're new with this, we have to be very objective. We don't want to think with our hearts. We want to think with our heads. So that initial qualification has one purpose. When we get on that call, we're trying to look for reasons they're not going to work out. Right. We're not looking to make friends with them. We're not looking to have them to like us. We're not trying to be cool. Right. We're trying to build rapport, but at the same time, we're qualifying. We're asking qualifying questions. Like, Nikki, let me ask you, I obviously don't want to waste your time. I mean, have you ever worked with an investor, and, how do you think this is going to work out working with an investor? Like, that's a qualification question. Everything's going to be, hey, if you got, I mean, how many days do you think this will get done? That's a qualification question. And when you've worked with investors in the past, I mean, how did you enjoy it? Did you like it? No, I liked it kind of. And I mean, so, let me ask you, why don't you still work for those investors? What happened? Right. So these are the questions I want to know, like what's going on. I want to, just because, look, I can't get anything from any one answer. I mean, I can't make any specific decision, but when I get all this information, it's all going to come, and I'm going to start to paint a picture with every question I ask. And that's what you do. You ask questions and you paint a picture, and eventually that picture, you're going to have to make some conclusions. You're going to have to make some decisions based on the limited information you have. So you guys okay making these calls right now, just talking to them, finding out some basic stuff from them? And same thing for you, Nancy, since you have a homeowner there. You now know you can get people to do the work. So, trying to get them there while the lady lives there is not that easy. But if you are going to do it, it is an outside thing. So you could get that estimate if you'd like. But if you are going to do it, I would talk to all these people. When you've talked to all of them, I would set a day up, maybe Thursday or Friday if you could, if that works. And then just have everybody come in like a couple-hour window. That's it. You're there for a few hours, meet everyone there, let them. Now you're going to get, if you get 5 or 6 people to come look at that roof, you're getting a lot of free opinions, right? You're getting a lot of free opinions, which I think is a great thing, because that's a weird roof and you're going to need somebody. You're going to need a lot of different opinions on it, because you need to challenge them on like what's possible. Like, what would be the cheapest way to get this roof back to being acceptable? Like, I don't want to rip it all off. I don't want to take it down to the studs. I don't want to get rid of the concrete. I just want to lay something over it, make it acceptable, and move on. And that you're going to need someone that thinks like creatively, because you do have an odd roof. For you, Nikki, it's simple. They're just painting a house. It's fresh sheetrock. It's easy. Just, can you do the work? How fast can you do it? Are you okay with our payment terms? I'm going to pay you when you're done. I'm going to keep a couple $100 for punch out, because that's standard how we do it. It's $2,000, $300 for punch out, $1,700 when they're done the first paint, and then $300 to touch up anything when they come back. That's basically it, right? And how fast can they do it? If they can get in now a couple days, that's good for you, right? Less painting, people in there painting, more stuff can be done otherwise. So that's all you're going to really be asking, Nikki. So can you call your people between now and say Thursday? And Nancy and Jim, can you do the same thing?
Yes, sir.
Okay, awesome. And feel free to reach out on Marco Polo and ask me if you have any questions as you're calling them, because I'm willing to help and get as involved as possible. What I would say too, for anyone else, what we can do, I'm going to do a bonus training. Let's set a time for that. And then we can also, if there's any other questions, we can jump on that. But let's see, let's set the time for the bonus training now. And what I would ask for anyone else, like Alec and Ray or Darshan, anyone else, I would ask you to set up your... Sorry, I'm going to turn you off for a second. I'm going to ask anyone else who needs contractors to go ahead and get your funnel up and running. And it would be awesome if you have it up and running by Thursday, and maybe get an ad out. But get an ad out. So Darshan, you're just starting a flip. So the first guy you need is a demo guy. So your ad should be like, hey, I'm looking for someone to demo. Here's what I want to pay, right? Stop asking people what it costs. Because remember what you said to me, Darshan? Well, hey, I got a couple people to come in, and they told me they wanted a lot more than what you told me. Yeah, that's how it works, right? You could probably have 100 people come in. They'll tell you if you're not asking. Here's what's really funny. It's a great story from Robert. Robert's guy, he asked him what it would cost to do a house I sold to him for the HVAC, and he said $14K for 2 units. And then he hired another guy for $11K, and that guy didn't work out that well. And then his guy come back and said, I'll do it for $10K. It's really interesting. If Robert just would have come and said, look, I'm looking to pay 9 or 10K, dude, can you make that work? He probably could have got the guy to do it for the 9 or 10K. But when you start asking them what things cost, the number goes up. Just inherently, the number goes up when you ask people what it costs, because they assume they can just charge you whatever they want. But your job is to say, look, this is my budget. Can you make it work? When you do that, it challenges them to dig deep and find the better numbers. So Darshan, same thing for you. If you're using the contractor funnel and you're new, just put an ad out for a couple first things you need, right? All you need to start with is you need demo and framing. That's it. So you might put an ad out for demo, might put an ad out for framing. The guy can do framing, usually can do trim, doors, cabinets, things like that too. So you're going to get a lot of people. What you're going to find is if you run this ad for like 5 days and maybe run it a couple days and get enough people, and then next week run it a couple days, you're going to find that you have like a complete like arsenal. Like I would call it more like you have a bench of people that you can dig through. It's like a library of contractors you can dig through at any time and get on the phone. It's so much better than asking someone in like the Baltimore's investor network, can you send me a referral? Because most people are only referring people who aren't sharks or rock stars. They're not referring you to rock stars, because if they had rock stars, they wouldn't be on the Baltimore Investors Network giving up their contractors. Right? Nobody does that. That's what like losers do. Sit on there and like talk crap about each other and like make fun of everyone when they put prices. That's what those guys are doing. They're just sitting there being negative. They're not actually flipping most of the time. Most of them flip 1 or 2 houses a year unsuccessfully. So of course their guys are available. You get a rock star and you know how to find deals. Dude, you're not on no Facebook group. You're just out there doing deals and making money. You're not in there like in every day, like, like the chicken heads in there talking crap all day. So yeah, those guys, I mean, you might get some decent referrals, but for the most part, I found that most of the referrals we got when Delonte was doing it, it just didn't work that well, because I was just getting people scraps, right? Most people don't have great contractors. So this is how we find them, is this technique I showed you right here. So everyone, if you could, Thursday is what we're going to do. Let's look at that time. And what I would ask you to do is go ahead and set up your funnel, get an ad running. So you can ask questions. We can look at your stuff. We can do another deep dive into this. We're going to do some live phone calls of some of the new people I've gotten, so you guys can hear me talk to people, painters and roofers, and you'll see exactly what I'm doing. I told this to Mike earlier. This process takes a very long time to get good at. Ray probably did it for a couple months before he got where it started to work really well. But, dabbling in it is good. And then eventually you want to the more time you take with it, and the more you stick with it, the faster you get results. With that being said, somebody else might do it for a couple of days and get the results. But long term, we never stop doing this. This becomes a part of your routine as a house flipper until you've built your team, and your team is like too deep, meaning you have like first guys that can do your flips and keep them going, and then you have secondary backup people in case someone gets sick or doesn't want to work for you anymore or decides to do something different. That's when you stop putting ads out. So like right now, I'm not putting ads out because I got plenty of people, but second I need them, I'm going to put ads out for a long period of time.
Question, Mike.
Oh, sure, go.
So how often do you keep in touch with the 2 or 3 people you did not hire? So you keep them more or less close to you?
Never. So I don't need to keep them close to me. I'll call them when I need them, because I have better stuff to do, to be honest. I never call, because I just think that's inefficient. I'm not trying to build like a club of people who want to work for me. I'll call them when I need them. And honestly, if I think they were pretty awesome and I end up so say the first guy I work with ends up being awesome and I just give him the job. Well, maybe if somebody on like our group asked for a roofer, then guess what? I would refer one of the second guys. I would never refer the first guy, by the way. So as much as you're like, oh, can I have your roofer? You don't refer your roofer, because let me just tell you what happens. I'm going to give you some, this is what happened to me many times in life. If you refer your rock star roofer, he's going to be like, thank you. That was really awesome. I appreciate it. Then he's going to do a job for someone else, and then that person's going to give him out to the Baltimore Investors Network. Next thing you know, he's going to come back and be like, yeah, I can't do roofing for that anymore. I'm too busy.
Mhm.
That's happened to me nothing less than like 35, 40 times in my life.
Wow.
Every time I refer, because if you take and build his business up, then he's going to get busy. And when people are busy, what do they naturally think? Well, I need to charge more. I'm too busy. I need to charge more. And then guess what? They never remember that Nancy and Jim was the reason they got all pumped up. They never remember that. So you don't refer your people ever. What you do is, since you're so deep and you're so abundant, you can refer the second and third people that you didn't use who seem pretty awesome. And you let them know, I haven't used this person, but I interviewed him. He seemed really awesome. I just had another guy who did the job, so I never had a need for him. So you're welcome to try him out. And that's how you refer people. And that's the best way, because you let them interview. You might say, here's two guys, right? Here's my two guys. And I love you referring them, because now it's actually a value to you to refer them, because they might come back to you and say, yeah, I worked with your number two guy. He was awesome. And then you might come and say, oh, cool. You know what? That's awesome. Now I got a number two guy, because someone else tested them out, right? I didn't have to test them out. So that's the strategic way we do things. If you refer your people, I've done it with stagers. How about my stager? I worked with a stager for 2.5 years, and I referred her to everyone. And 2.5 years later, she's like, I can't charge you that anymore. I need to up the price by $300 a house. I'm like, the reason you're busy is because I gave you, like, you know, that like most of your clients are my people, right? And I give you 100 houses a year. And so you're telling me you're going to up my price because you're too busy. And I'm like, I'm the reason you're too busy. Right. So I went and found someone else. She was doing it at $1,200. I found someone else to do it for like $1,050. And then I never worked with her again. And she lost like probably. And then once I found the $1,050 person, I referred that to all the people who was working with her. She probably lost 200 houses a year staging.
Wow.
Like maybe 150, 200 houses a year that she lost because she didn't. I was like, you never, ever bring the price up on your power source. I'm the person that brung the power in, right? I bring all the stuff, but they don't get that. Like, and I actually had a meeting with her, because I had a meeting at my office for like 2 hours with her, explaining the power source. Like, hey, I'm the reason you're this busy. I promote you. I tell people how great you are. I mean, I get that you're not, you know, that you're getting busy, but like, you're supposed to keep me where I'm at. You can't up my cost for referring you. You've never given me a referral, like any kind of referral fee or anything. I've never asked for that. I've done it just out of pure niceness. Right. But she totally couldn't get it. So we don't refer people. We don't refer our people we've used. We refer our secondary people. And if you're doing your job correctly, you should always have a couple secondary people on hand. So that's what we do to be nice to them, Jim, is we'll refer them out, send their number out. That's a very nice gesture. That's how we keep in contact with them. And we only call them if we need them. I want the group to keep kind of communicating with each other on the page about this, like what's working, what's not. Let's get like a dialogue going and a feedback loop, because there's so much to learn on this. There's so many little details that you can dial in to make this give you amazing results. So the more we communicate and share and talk, and I get to teach and help, and we get to kind of adjust things, I promise you that once you crack the code doing this like Nikki with a painter, it's freaking endless. You realize if you can do this with a painter, you can do it with any other trade. Like, it's endless. However, if you go through all the hard sources, like, well, I got a couple people from this other investor. Remember, he's not, like, most people are not giving away their sharks unless they got no common sense. Because I'll tell you what, you give your shark away, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
I make all my best contractors, I make them wear like freaking ski mask at work whenever we do, like, anyone comes in, like if we do a training, they gotta wear a ski mask for, you know, to protect their identity. It. They're like witness protection. Now, the thing is, they love me so much they wouldn't go. I've had people offer them. I've been to Home Depot with them, and a guy comes up and says, "Hey, Juan, like, hey man, you still doing work?" And he gave him his card, and Juan just throws it in the trash, because I keep my guys so busy and I treat them so well, and I future cast with them and tell them all the work they got coming up. So I always keep them thinking in the future and happy and ready to go. And we can talk more about that, some of the other trainings about how you keep your contractors happy once you get them in. And certainly when I say you don't refer them, Nikki, like if you got a painter, like you totally could refer that person if you don't have a job waiting for them to paint right away, because painter is a smaller job. But, you know, and also you might refer them to like someone in the group. Because see, in the group, there's a certain level of respect that you'll get in the group. I would never put them on the Baltimore's Investor Network or any of these other places. I would not put them on any of those like social medias for the world to see. In our group, it's a small group of people, and you know, and yes, they would probably be somewhat respectful of your person, not treat them like crap, and you at least know you're referring to decent people. So I don't, because that's one thing too. If you refer them to a bad person, like one time, somebody asked me for a granite referral, and I gave him Scott, and the guy ripped Scott off. Scott was like, your buddy ripped me off." I was like, my buddy? It was just a random dude that asked me that I know a granite guy. I was like, thanks for making me feel bad for giving your number out, dude. I ain't my fault you didn't take the guy's money. What were you thinking? And he's like, oh, I don't know. I thought he was your friend. I'm like, yeah, you got my number. You could have texted and asked, was he my friend or did I know him before you let him on like $4,000 job? You let him like on the cuff. And anyhow, but he was like, yeah, you're right. I kind of figured that out after the fact, but I'm like, dude, now I don't want to refer you. You see what I mean? It's so weird when you refer people because you actually kind of end up being a kill the messenger kind of situation. So yeah, only refer your secondary people, not your rock stars. And honestly, half the time I refer my rock stars, they're rock stars with me, but as soon as I send them somebody else, they may not like that person. So a lot of this is about like your personality kind of really going well with the person you hire. And like Nikki might interview 10 people and I might pick someone different to be my rock star. Her rock star might be someone totally different also. It's not that there's only one rock star. There might be someone who just likes the way she does things. And, maybe they like blondes. I don't know. I'm brunette. And they're like, who knows, right? It's just there's whole reason. But for whatever reason, you guys might have something in common. Maybe you grew up in like, Ferndale, Glen Burnie area. There's just some commonality that they like you more. So you never know what that might be. When we talk to a lot of different people, it's not like, everyone has a little different personality. So there could be a different person that you end up like connecting with, like your perfect soulmate for painting, right? My forever painter. You might get on one knee and marry him. They can get done in 2.5 days. I'll consider it. Cassandra.
Oh.
Yes, go ahead.
Since we missed the first part of the call, where do you go to place this ad?
It's in the training. So that you go to place the ad in Craigslist, but that's in the training that you need to watch from Delante. So if you go into the training modules, there's a new module that says cracking the contractor code. So it's a new training there, and you go in there and look at setting up your contractor funnel.
Okay.
Delante did a training, and he'll walk you through the exact steps of where to put it, how to put it, all those things. And those templates, he'll be putting those in soon if you guys need those.
Okay.
If anybody needs templates, he'll have them up on there as the templates you can use. Okay, for the ad. It costs $5 a day. I recommend that you run it for a couple days. You don't personally need to run it for this one thing because I got you. I'm running it for a couple days for you.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I'll send you a bill for $15, but no, I got it. I'm doing it more for testing, and I'm just using you as the person I'm testing for. So I'm running it to try to get some feedback. I'm also looking at my own system and tweaking and making sure everything's going as well as it always has. But if there's anything missing or I need to improve, this gives me an opportunity to do so. So that's why I'm running these ads, and I'm going to keep running ads for a lot of different trades throughout the next month or two. My hopes is that as Nikki gets a bunch of good painters, and maybe she gets down to a couple people she likes, that we can all, maybe put that on a list that we can all share. And same thing with roofers. If you find a couple of roofers that are competent, then maybe we can share that list.
Okay.
But we always can build, right? When everyone's like, hey, can you give me your contractors? Like the contractors that are awesome today are not the contractors that are awesome a month from now. Because see, one thing that I probably didn't share with you, and I'm glad I just thought about it, is like one of the biggest things with them is not just that they can do it and that they can do it for the price, but it's also availability, right? How available are they? If they happen to be in between something and you caught them at a great time, well, that's awesome, right? That's why we don't want to get in a place where like, well, Mike gave me their guy. And well, Mike's guy will not be available when you call him. But if you need it today and I call my guy, he's like, yeah, I'm ready today. I can do one thing between, I don't have to do anything for you for another couple of days. I could do it then. He's available then. But if you call him 2 weeks from now, he's not available most likely. So we always want to like look for people when we need them. So right now, even Nikki's a little early on the painter because she might not need somebody for a week or two. That's about the max that we want to do it. So ideally what we'd want to do is really maybe look for someone between like 7 to 14 days in advance, but no longer than that. Because if we start getting like a month in advance, or we start talking about a rehab we're going to do in the future, people are going to feel like you wasted their time. They want to actually estimate an actual real job. So we never get anyone or talk to anyone in theory. We always talk about a specific job we need them to do. So it's the best time to get contractors is when you need them. That is not I know it feels scary to do that, but I promise you that like if you've got a bunch of contractors a month early, and what happened, we know this because me and Rashad did it. Me and Delante and Rashad talked to 100 contractors over 3 days, and we had this whole list of contractors. And then we had a little bit of a slowdown with a waterproofer and took 2 weeks to do it. We called them all back and none of them would answer the phone. Like 100 people, we couldn't get one person. They were all booked up. They were on Craigslist. What do you think happened? They got work and got booked up. So like literally we had to do the whole thing again. And Delante and Rashad looked at me like, we got to do it again? I'm like, yeah, what happened to everyone? Because we called them way too in advance, right? There was just a month was just too in advance. They were all available at the time, but not available a month later. So yeah, somewhere between like maybe 7 to 14 days max is when you would start running your ads and start talking to people, and you generally can get this stuff worked out pretty well, pretty quick too. Because when they're responding to the ad, they're usually responding because they're available right now. But see, when someone's super busy, they're not on Craigslist looking for stuff. So if they're responding to your ad, they're basically saying like, I got some gaps in my schedule that I want to fill. So, but if, so you're looking for the people who are actually available and that they're available at that time. So again, it's kind of a complete waste if you're doing it too far in advance. Maybe 7 days, probably, maybe 5 to 7 would be the most optimal time. Okay. So any other questions about the funnel, anything else, or just questions in general? I want to, that training is pretty much complete. So I'm hoping that again, we'll do Thursday. Is 2:30 good for mostly everyone? And we'll just put it on. That's the only time I really have. So let's make that work. Not saying like there's another option. I don't really have another time that I'm available. I'll do 2:30 and I'll go ahead and put it up, but I'll get you a link and everything. Let me just put training, just bonus training. Bonus training for contractors calls. This will actually be really fun too, because you'll get a chance to just like hear me talk, what I'm doing, your job is to kind of evaluate like what I'm, really look deep into what I'm doing, because a lot of times people hear me talk with people and they're like, well, they just do stuff for you, Mike. But I'm like, it's because you're not paying close attention to the detail, right? The craft. There's, when you talk to a lot of people, you get better at it, right? And I've talked to probably thousands of contractors over the years, right? I've done many, I didn't have a funnel for many years, but since I've had the funnel, I've talked to 300. And I mean, there was a time where like I had a full-time person that all he did was talk to contractors every day and interview people every day. We were doing over 100 houses a year. That's what it took. Like we literally had one guy that spent like 2-3 hours a day talking to contractors, like forever. For 2 years he worked for us, right? Forever. So it never stopped. And we didn't have a funnel then. If we'd had a funnel, it would have been amazing, because he was talking to all 30, by the way. So that was his mistake, was he was talking to all 30. If I could have got where he was talking to maybe the top 5 out of the 30, he would have had way better results, right? It's that 80-20 rule, just like we do when we look at the MLS, right? We don't look at all 30 deals. We pick the top couple. So we can do the same thing if you're running those ads every day. This is what we just did in one day. Well, tomorrow, if I run the ad again, guess what? Tomorrow, I'll have an opportunity to do it again. And guess what? The person on tomorrow, well, it'll be some repeats, but the person tomorrow will actually probably be a different person, because tomorrow it might be someone else who looked at their schedule and said, hey, I need to jump and look for some work. And you'll see some of the lifers, the Craigslist lifers that are on there all the time, but you'll see those repeating a lot. But every day I get like new people. So that's why I don't think it's a problem to run it for 3 to 5 days, no problem. I would run it for like a month straight. I mean, because if you ain't got a guy by then, there's more issues. Craigslist isn't the problem. It's how you're dealing with people that's the problem. We have had students in the past that had personality issues. So they didn't do well with the contractors because they were kind of like mean to them, but not like in trying to be mean. They're very nice people. They just came off weird, like a little bitchy, I guess. Like, and I used to be that way a little bit. I had to like kind of soften up a little. And so I'm being very straight to the point, but I'm being nice about it. That's the key. And some people come off too nice. Like Nancy, you might be too nice. Maybe we got to get Jim in. He's the hardcore closer. Whatever it is, right? You just figure it out. But somebody's going to figure it all out. I mean, just if you're talking to people, you start figuring out what works, as long as you give yourself time to work the details out. So by talking to, say, another 50, 60 contractors in the next month, you're going to be better than you were a month before, right? And that's all we need to do in this business in order to make a lot of money, is get better than we are the month before. So if 30 days from now, you've talked to a bunch of contractors, you've gotten the people you've needed, and you will be better than where you were 30 days before. So that's all we need to do.